Welcome, champion entrepreneurs. Welcome to GoCEO, where we talk to CEOs, founders, and visionaries about their businesses, and more importantly, about the characteristics and personal strategies of the man or the woman behind that business, so we can better understand what led to huge success. I am Cory Bergeron, your host. I'm a former national TV spokesperson for over 350 brands, author, speaker, business consultant, and CEO. And I'm coming to you live from Costa Rica. By the way, this shirt, which I've received a lot of compliments on at this point, I didn't own this shirt an hour ago. I actually came to Costa Rica with nothing but tank tops and board shorts and decided, oh, shoot, that's right. All these people are going to be on GoCEO, and they're probably going to be looking for me to look a bit more polished. So I ran down to a surf shop, which had about 5 shirts on a rack, and I said, I'll take the blue and white one because it matched my hat. So we've been down here on vacation, but the GoCEO community is something I'm really passionate about. So I didn't want to put it off or delay having Darren Jacklin on as our guest. He was signed up for this Friday, so we're going live here, and today's topic is going to be planning for generational wealth building. We're going to talk with Darren. He has successfully created massive wealth for himself and his family through many different vehicles. If you're watching this video on YouTube, make sure you click subscribe and the little bell just below this video screen so we can let you know when new videos are released. And we're going to talk to Darren in just a moment. But before we do that, we're just getting started with GoCEO again after the holiday. And I know, our sponsor, the world's greatest mastermind, board of advisors, we've got the CEO, Mr. Mike Calhoun, with us. And Mike comes to us every week and gives us his top 3 thoughts for the week. 3 specific strategies or insights that you should know as an entrepreneur to enhance your business or your life. And I see Mike's back there scribbling on his board. He's got his top 3 in his head. He's going to lay them out for us. Mike, are you ready to rip?
I am definitely ready to rip. I'm always ready to rip. I think I wake up ripping. No, kidding. Guys, listen, ladies, gentlemen, I want you to if you're looking at the markets today, Darren, because I know you watch the markets frequently, the markets don't look amazing. What I want to encourage you with going into 2022, change is going to happen. And there's going to be big change, but it can be good. It can be real good if you've surrounded yourselves with the right relationships, the right experience, and the ability to stay calm and make the right decisions through that change. I was just on the phone with Chris Norton this morning, and when you're looking at certain trends, it's easy to kind of get a little panic when things start changing quickly when you're looking at that day or that week. But over a period of time, that experience that others have that we can leverage by the relationships that we've installed here at BA just tends to remind us that change is good and we should always be looking for leverage, right? A gentleman or a young lady in the board of advisors membership, there's always leverage to be had when you're dealing with say, Jed Morley or a Chris Johnson. Kevin, we had a great call this morning, and there's leverage that you're able to provide through your app and your solution to a lot of the other players in BA, right? That one calculation that took a full day for several people is now being done in, say, 4 or 5 minutes. And it's saving companies thousands and thousands of dollars through that tax credit. So, one thing that we have on our side here is the ability to welcome change and look for the leverage within these relationships and these conversations. And you were speaking of skiing, Cory. And,
yes, absolutely.
In the investing world, they always say, keep a little dry powder. Speaking of dry powder, Reggie Baxter, my friend Reggie Baxter just jumped on as well. He's always got a little extra dry powder, right? The dip can be good, and you should always have a little bit set aside for the dip, a little dry powder for that time when that change does happen. and you can take advantage of that change, and it becomes a good thing. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are coming up on 2022. We're making some really strategic plans for how do we make not this just our best year for Board of Advisors, but our best year with you and for you. So I'm excited to be here. And actually, I've got to go grab my notepad. Usually I do about a full page of notes when we do these GoCEO shows. So I'm ready to rock and roll, and I'm looking forward to hearing what Darren has to say.
All right. Awesome. Thank you very much, Mike. And please realize, folks, that we sometimes crowdsource ideas from the membership. And if you have something that you'd love to hear Mike cover in his top 3 the next Friday, by all means, drop them in the comments section of Zoom here so that we can kind of catalog them and then present them to Mike, and he can select the ones that he feels he's really passionate about helping you with and delivering some knowledge on. So thank you very much, Mike. All right, Darren Jacklin. Now, Darren, when you talk about generational wealth building, you're talking about a guy who has created just an empire within his family. This is a guy who has rang the closing bell at NASDAQ twice, like very few people on the planet ever get to do that. He actively serves as an independent board of directors member for a company that he helped take from startup with just a few hundred people to a multi-billion-dollar company with 70,000 people in 18 countries. Darren has personally trained and developed over 1 million people in 48 countries. We're talking, 157 Fortune 500 companies on 5 continents. I mean, the guy, he's just got so much knowledge swimming around up in that brain. I can't wait to bring him up here and hear what he has to say. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, Mr. Darren Jacklin. Darren, how are you?
I'm very grateful to be here. Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. And thanks for allowing your time to be here. I know everybody's protecting their time and qualifying their time. So I'm here to provide massive value today. And I always say, is the juice worth the squeeze? So hopefully today you'll get lots of juice out of the squeeze today of being here today. So I'm grateful to be here.
And I got to tell you, Darren, I was really impressed. I reached out to you in advance and I said, hey, let's talk about your topic. You have so much that you could deliver, so many different things that we could talk about. And this is what we decided on, how to build generational wealth. But there were so many things, and you were just focused the whole time on, I want to make sure that I'm giving actionable advice to people, things that they can immediately integrate and use, not just fluff or overhead. You wanted stuff that had substance. So I'm really anxious to talk to you about that today. First, let's set the stage. All right. I don't even know how to encapsulate what it is that you do, because you do so many different things. So if I sat Darren Jacklin on an elevator and said, all right, you've got to the top floor to tell me what you do, how would you even respond to that?
Great question. So I wear different hats. So one hat I wear is board of directors hats of public and private companies. I serve actively now on 3 paid boards of directors of very high profile companies publicly and globally. One being a multi-billion-dollar company, the other one being a company worth about $400 million in assets under management. And the other company is actually here in Reach Out to IT, which is actually a board of advisor member, which is Rick Jordan, which we just helped take that company public, which is in the cybersecurity space. I then also am an investor and partner in multiple different companies as well. One being Kevin Marshall, who's a CPA here of 35 years with Profitopia. If you don't know what that company is, you should check it out because they'll help save you a lot of money probably with a lot of different things. But what I do is profit for people. So really in a nutshell, when people ask me, what do? I build financial wealth for people. I'm committed to global philanthropy. Today, I've committed $100 million over the next 10 years towards global philanthropy projects. In 2019, we created our family foundation called Link Foundation, which stands for Leaders Yielding to New Knowledge. We've built our first school called the Link Leadership Academy in Liberia, West Africa. We have a few hundred children every day. In fact, right now, as we're talking, their kids are in school. And these are children that live in a little rural village that if the Link Foundation, Link Leadership Academy did not come there, these children would never, ever spend a day in school. So just imagine being a parent or having nieces or nephews or being a grandmother or grandfather, your children or your people in your family never, ever going to school. So we are building for-profit companies to generate a strong balance sheet so that we can then pay it forward and pass it on as our planetary assignment to serve humanity. So we have a planetary assignment, what we're doing. Some people focus on their families their relationships, their neighborhoods, their communities. We focus on a global vision. Tatiana and I have no children. Tatiana is also a board of advisor member. She's the love of my life. Some of you know her. Tatiana was a high school teacher for 35 years, 3 academic degrees from the top universities in Canada, bilingual in French and English language. And being an employee with the government, the union of 35 years, she was treated as an employee ID number, and it was transactional versus relational. And so we retired her in 2018. She came on this mission with me to serve humanity. And so she runs, I'm grateful, she's my integrator. I'm the visionary. And she runs all the day-to-day operations within our teams and with our group of companies. And so I'm grateful that she is very instrumental behind the scenes, behind the curtain, which makes me, more visible and exposure-wise publicly. But she takes care of a lot of the details and administration stuff that people don't see behind the scenes.
Yeah, having that integrator or that operations person is always so important for someone who is a highly creative visionary.
Yes.
And that's who you are. You are that person. That is the dynamic duo, having those two pieces of the puzzle together. And I'm really glad you found that in Tatiana. I mean, in your wife, in your life partner. That's incredible. If you were to take me on a journey through your professional career, like when you started your first business or you began in the workplace up to where you are now, what would that journey look like?
Oh, very interesting. So some of you don't know my backstory. So I failed grade 1 of public school and was misdiagnosed with a learning disability and a reading disability. And it was determined by the school system that I was probably retarded, and also I should be in special education classes. So I never went to regular public school like most normal kids. From grade 1 all the way through to grade 12, I was in special education. I was also medicated on a pharmaceutical drug called Ritalin when I was in elementary school. So I was medicated, and I was told I'd never accomplish much, never go far, never amount to much. And so when I was 7 years of age, you can imagine if you have children, 7 years of age, school was not my thing. I was very bored in school. I was mislabeled, misdiagnosed. So I created my first company when I was 7 years old called Rent a Kid. And I would go out in my neighborhood and look for opportunity zones. Who's got my money? I'm always looking at who's got my money. And it was never about the money. I just wanted choices. I wanted freedom in my life. And I wanted to, do things. So what I did is I went and knocked on a lot of doors to solve problems in my neighborhood, of my community. I went and shoveled snow in the wintertime. I delivered newspapers 6 days a week. I cut grass, raked leaves, did odd jobs, whatever I could. And by the time I was 9 years of age with my Rent a Kid business, I went out and hired my best friends. I'm 49 years of age today. And those two friends from going back to 9 years of age, we're still great friends to this day, 40 years later. And so throughout junior high and high school, I was out making money, doing entrepreneurial ventures, doing the crazy stuff. And, I got people laughed at me, criticized me and stuff like that. And then when I got into grade 11, I was taken out of class one day by a guidance counselor and a school teacher. And they said, Darren, based on your academic marks, you're probably not going to graduate grade 12. You'll never go to college, never go to university. And you probably won't even see your 20th birthday. And that really impacted my self-worth and my self-image and my self-confidence, because these are my heroes. These are my role models. These are my teachers. These are my mentors. And so when I left high school, I did barely pass high school. I was a D student. I got my PhD, my public high school diploma, and I went off and I did multiple suicide attempts to end my life by driving my car at 85 miles an hour, 140 kilometers an hour towards a telephone pole. And in my last attempt committing suicide, I stopped my car. I couldn't hit the telephone pole. And I drove myself to a nonprofit organization that did 24-hour telephone crisis line prevention for suicide prevention. And I rang the door buzzer and I turned myself in, and they started to coach and counsel me. And then a lady, this is back in the early 1990s, she then referred me to a hotel to go meet a gentleman by the name of Dale Carnegie. I didn't know who Dale Carnegie was, so I went to this hotel, got there. I didn't realize it was a training development course called the Dale Carnegie Training Program, because he wrote a best-selling book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And so I signed up for the 12-week program, changed my life, the Dale Carnegie Training Program. Through that, I met a lady who then introduced me to Toastmasters International. And that started to change my environment, because I discovered that environment is stronger than willpower. So being involved in Dale Carnegie and then Toastmasters back in the early 1990s, that gave me a whole different perspective. And that launched me to then going out and get a job with a national magazine in Canada. We used to do 400 telephone cold calls a day, selling magazine subscriptions.
Wow.
And so after 7 months, I was the number one telemarketer in Canada. I left there. And then I went and got stacks and stacks of telephone books, the white pages, the yellow pages. And back in June of 1995, I created a corporate training business. And I used to make 400 cold calls a day, 2,000 cold calls a week. Sometimes I was 3, 4, 5 months behind on paying my bills. I had bill collectors calling me, knocking on my door because I was behind on my promises, completely out of integrity. And I just hustled and persevered. I made over 100,000 cold calls from 1995 to the year 2000, and making them all. And most of them were rejection calls and no calls. Most of them were no. And out of those over 100,000 cold calls I made, it launched me globally to training, developing over 1 million people in 50 countries on 4 continents. And I end up signing up 157 Fortune 500 companies that wrote me a check to come in and do corporate training. And then in 2011, I'm on an airplane one time from San Francisco to New York City on United Airlines. I write down in my journal, I want to get onto paid advisory boards and paid boards of directors of companies. And so I went to 73 different people. I documented in my journal, metric, everything. All 73 people said, Darren, it's wishful thinking. It's never going to happen. You're not going to get onto a paid advisory board, paid board of directors. You don't have an MBA. You never went to Harvard or Stanford or Yale or Wharton School of Finance. You didn't grow up with a last name that people recognize and notice. You know, it's not going to go anywhere. And in 2013, I had a high net worth family here in Canada said, hey, Darren, they called me up one day and said, listen, we're looking at investing into the startup company. Would you fly back at your own financial expense? That's where most people would quit. What do you mean? It's your deal. You want me to pay for my own travel expenses for your deal? Come on, I'm out.
Yeah.
And I want to be around, you know, proximity is powerful. They're a high net worth family. I want to get close to them, to their mindset, their thinking. I spent a number of times with them. I ended up telling the family to invest into this company. And they said, hey, we want you to be close to our money. So you should be an independent board of directors. We can't pay you, but we'll give you an equity position. It's a key thing, got equity. And that company, that little startup company, you know, had no money, building airplanes, were flying it. Today's a multi-billion-dollar company. And I've done very well with that.
Wow.
With that company. But we had a lot of dreams, a lot of criticism, a lot of skeptics. We disrupted a real estate industry where people have been around for decades with very deep financial pockets and global brand recognition. And we're the fastest growing residential real estate company in the world today. And we onboard a new residential agent every 4 minutes globally right now. We onboard more
what
agents.
A story.
We onboard more agents in a month than most real estate companies in the world do in a year. And some companies, we onboard more new agents in a week than most companies do in a year. The numbers don't lie. It's unbelievable what we do. And
oh my God.
Now we're at 70,000 agents now this week, and we are going to 500,000 agents within the next 5 years globally. So so I love fast growth, but it takes a team of people. And something, if you're taking notes, write this down. Most of your goals and dreams do not require your actions. I want you to always remember this. Most of your goals and dreams do not require your actions. It's about creating teams and teamwork. I was the cog in the wheel for many years of my life. I was the cog in the wheel. When I got out of the way of myself and replaced myself with day-to-day operations and started to work on the business rather than in the business, my lifestyle changed, my bank accounts changed, my worldview changed, everything changed for me. Because if you want to change your life, you got to change your life. And so I just did an audit of myself, a self-assessment, realizing I've got to change. And so, I'm blessed in my life now that, I know what it's like to be homeless. I've been on welfare for a couple of months. I know what it's like to eat my next meal out of a garbage dumpster. And I know what it's like to build financial wealth today and become financially successful. And so but the thing is that I remember the day I got paid $50 to go in and do corporate training. And I've also been paid $40,000 for a day of corporate training, plus first-class travel expenses. And I can tell you right now, I'm more excited about the $50 check than the $40,000 check. Because the day I got paid $50 from Investors Group Financial Services, a Canadian company, they believed more than me than I believed in myself. I didn't know that I was going to get paid as an honorarium to go in and guest speak to train these financial planners and financial advisors. When I went and got paid the $40,000 for the day of corporate training, I negotiated that fee. So it was much different. And so the thing is, and I'll share a quick story about wealth that will really change your perspective on this call. So a number of years ago, I had an oil and gas company called me up. And so I'll just back up for that. So for years, I was paid $250 a day as a corporate trainer back in the early 1990s, early 2000s. I got paid $250 a day. So I would travel around North America internationally for $250, flying on planes, traveling 276 days a year. So you think about it, for $250 a day, I'm traveling. And some companies, I'm putting in over 100 hours of preparation time before I go in and do training development. And I'm getting $250. I'm not even working for me. I could be a greeter at Walmart making more money. But I was committed to my commitments of being best in class in my craft. So I go to this mastermind group one time in Kelowna, British Columbia, Canada. This guy brings me this mastermind group. We're in the basement of a radio station. And there's all these high-level people like board of advisors. I'm way out of my comfort zone. I'm freaking scared, right? I'm flat broke financially. I'm struggling every month to pay my bills on time. It's just a vicious cycle of up and down of cash flow. I'm reading a book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And that's why this guy invited me, because we were thinking along the same lines. I go to this mastermind group, and at the end of the mastermind group, the last hour, they have a thing called a hot seat. And they bring a member to sit in the hot seat, kind of like we do at Board Advisors. You sit in the hot seat, and the membership asks you questions on how to help you solve for things in your life, personally and professionally. So I'm just a guest. I'm not a member. I'm just a guest of this mastermind group. So anyways, they suggested I go into the hot seat, and I'm a no. I'm a flat out no. That's not going to happen. I'm way out of my comfort zone here. I'm freaking scared. I'm just an observer. I'm sitting up in the stands watching the game. I'm not even participating. I'm way up in the stands watching the game. So they like, you're going to go. I'm like, no, I'm a flat no. I'll walk out of the room. I'm not going in the hot seat. That's a non-negotiable. I'm not going. And they're like, well, you're going to go. So all of a sudden, a number of people say you're going. So fine. Okay. Environment's stronger than willpower. So the environment wins. And so I went and sat in the hot seat. First question the guy asked me goes, how much do you make a day doing what you're doing? I said, $250. He goes, I wouldn't even get out of bed for that. And I'm like, okay, that's great. I'm just trying to pay my bills on time. And so anyways, they start asking me all these questions through this discovery process in this mastermind group. And the guy goes, listen, if you're going to come back here next month to this mastermind group, we're going to put a challenge on the floor right now. We want you to start charging $10,000 a day for your corporate training services. I'm getting paid $250 a day. I don't even make $10,000 in a month. And you're wanting me to ask for $10,000 in a day from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. for corporate training? It doesn't make I can't even make sense of that. I don't even make that in a month. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know anybody in my network who's a corporate trainer that makes $10,000 in a month. That's freaking outrageous. It's a kumbaya goal. I'm not going to drink the Kool-Aid. And so I start arguing with this guy. And the guy goes, listen, we're going to test you. You come back here next month in this mastermind group, you need to ask for $10,000. Even if they reject you and say no, you're going to ask for $10,000. Is it a deal? I'm like, fine. I'm like, I'm not going to follow through on this. 48 hours later, I have a large oil and gas company in Canada calls me up on the telephone. This is back in about 2007. And this guy calls me up and he says, are you Darren Jacklin? I said, yeah. He goes, I met you 18 months ago in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. You're speaking at a conference. We want to bring you in for a quarterly offsite, for a quarterly business review. And we want to bring you in. How much for a day of your corporate training? Now, one thing I'll share with you, full disclosure, is one of the things that I'll just go on record for. In this mastermind group that day, one of the guys, the members told me, he said, Darren, if you don't ask for $10,000, or if you're scared to ask for $10,000, reach down and grab your balls and start squeezing your balls and start applying pain and pressure.
You know what's incredible?
True story.
So one of the things that I really love about what you're talking about is the value of being absolutely transparent and vulnerable in front of people that have the ability to mentor you into a completely new place in your life, right? That is the essence of mastermind. It is getting into a place where you say, look, I'm just going to be absolutely transparent. Here's what I'm making a year. Here's what I'm making a day. This is where I need to go. I've been doing this, I've been in the same spot. I'm plateaued for 2 years now. I need to figure out how to break through. How do I do that? And then having somebody who holds you accountable and comes back next time and shakes your hand and say, okay, you got a lot of feedback last time. How did it go?
Yeah.
And that's the value of mastermind. So hearing you say that and you just being totally vulnerable and saying, look, I'm making $250 a day in a room full of titans, transform your life.
Yeah. And I'll unfold this a little bit more because you're going to get the lesson in the story. It's a powerful story that you'll remember for the rest of your life. So what happened was 2 days later, I get a phone call. And this guy says to me, he says, okay, great. I want to bring you in for a quarterly business review offsite. We're going to be in the Canadian Rocky Mountains by Banff National Park. I got 11 of my executives coming in. We'll fly you in, pay for your lodging, all that stuff, accommodations. How much for a day of corporate training? Now, what's the first thing that goes through your mind? Oh, I'm being tested. This is a setup.
Oh, yeah.
These guys got together. They've called somebody to call me, and they're going to test me. So they okay, great, it's a test. So I figured I got to ask for $10,000. I'm freaking scared, terrified. So I'm on the call, and this guy's a very high D driver personality style, like redneck from oil and gas industry. And he goes, "How much for a day of corporate training?" And you remember, I'm making $250 a day, and I got to ask for $10,000 for 1 day of training, for 6 hours of corporate training. Way out of my mindset. And so I reached down, I started screaming, grabbed my balls, and I'm thinking, oh, I gotta follow through on this test. So I said $10,000. He goes, "Done. My executive assistant will call you back within the next hour with a FedEx tracking number. We'll send you $5,000 certified funds up front. And on the day of training in 4 months, you can pay the extra $5,000. So I'm thinking, yeah, right. I'm not going to see no FedEx envelope. This is over, right? So, okay, fine. Great. Hang up the phone. Right. And I'm like, yeah, right. I'm not going to get no executive. So anyways, an hour later, the executive assistant calls me, wants my courier made in that address, wants to send me a check for $5,000 to lock in the date and time for corporate training. So anyways, I check FedEx. Sure enough, the check comes the next day. I'm like blown away. So I'm like, do I cash a check? Now you got to understand. Wow. Here I'm making $250 a day. I'm behind on some of my bills. So I need to spend the $5,000. So I'm calling people. The check comes through. I'm thinking, okay. So I call people because I got some money in. I got to pay some bills to restore my integrity, right? Because I got some broken promises. Yeah. So I call these people. I take it to the bank. The bank doesn't the bank recognizes this oil and gas company. It's a well-known company, but I have a low credit score. And so the bank doesn't trust me. So they put a 5-day business hold on my check for $5,000. But I've already told people I'm going to come by tonight and tomorrow to pay them out to get caught up on my bills. So now I got to call back these people and renegotiate. So what happened was 4 months later, I go to the Canadian Rockies. I go to this company. I do this quarterly offsite with these guys. At the end, they just love it because I'm a very practical, results-oriented person in terms of training development. I'm very results-oriented. And so anyways, at the end, they go whitewater rafting. This executive guy smoking a cigarette with a pack of Players Lights, smokes 3 packs of cigarettes a day, this guy. He says, "You and I need to go for a walk down the Canadian riverbank." I was okay. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, did I screw up? Because man, I've already spent the $5,000. If this guy wants a refund, I can't pay because I've already paid my bills. And the other $5,000 he's got in the envelope, I need that money because when I get back, I got to meet with some people to pay them to get caught up. Like I'm overdue on some things here. So the guy's walking me down the riverbank, and I want everybody to pay very close attention to what I'm going to share with you, because what I'm going to share with you will change your life. It was, if you look back, I'm 49 years of age. It was one of the defining moments of my life of building financial freedom. We're walking down the riverbank, and the guy asks me, "Why is it that you charge me $10,000 a day for corporate training?" And I'm freaking scared, thinking this guy think I ripped him off, scammed him. And I'm sitting there thinking, what do I do? Like, this guy's a big redneck guy. Is he going to beat me up? Like, what, all these things, all this worst case scenario stuff's going through my head. And I said to myself, you know what? I said, listen, I feel that I'm worth it, that I provided massive value. Your executives got phenomenal reviews. The evaluations are great. He looks at me and he says, "Darren, I need to give you some feedback." And he says, "You need to shut up when somebody calls you and asks you how much for a day of your services, for your consulting services, your corporate training services." He goes, "When I called you and I asked you for how much for a day of corporate training, you said $10,000. You should have asked me what my budget is or what I was willing to pay for it." He goes, "Darren, I'm going to tell you something. People believe more than you believe in yourself. I was willing to pay you $25,000 for the day plus your travel expenses because that was in my budget, and you only asked for $10,000. If you would have said anything under $10,000 over the phone, you would never heard from my company ever again, because you would have been wasting my time, because I won't put someone like you for $250 in front of my executives. You got that? Wow. Here's your check for $5,000. And just so you know, you missed $15,000 I was going to pay you in my budget that would have went to you. You're worth $25,000 a day, not $10,000 a day. Do you understand me? Stop asking and start asking for what you're worth, and start shortchanging yourself, because you're devaluing yourself and you're devaluing the world, and what you do is your service. It was a defining moment of my life.
Isn't that interesting? I think as entrepreneurs, we all have a transformative moment where we realize, what potential we actually have living within us. I remember that, from being on the air on national television. And I remember going on and thinking, the first couple gigs that I did, it was just about getting airtime, right? I went in and I worked for straight commission. I think I walked off the air with like $60 in my pocket, and I put in like 2 days worth of effort preparing for that airing. Yeah. And when I left the air, I was getting $1,000 for 15 minutes of on-air time, or 2% of wholesale on the sales of that product, whichever was higher. So, I mean, I would go to work and I would walk out with 30 or 40 grand in my pocket after a day's worth of being on the air. And that was after I had learned what I was actually worth. And there were transformative times, transformative moments where mentors of mine brought me along and showed me that. But oh yeah, I can remember going on the air the first time and knowing I'm going to get $1,000 for 15 minutes of on-air time. And it took me like a half-hour drive to get here, 15 minutes in makeup and putting my shirt on, and off I go. Can I really charge $1,000 for that? Oh yeah. Oh yeah, you can. So listen, amazing story, unbelievable story. I want to make sure that we stay focused a little bit on our topic that we've warned people, kind of warmed everyone up for today, because you have so much value to bring in this arena. Please, first of all, tell us about your 250 legacy plan that you're creating. What is that? Because I know it dovetails right into our topic today of building generational wealth.
Yeah, so I've had a chance in my life to be around a number of billionaires and generational wealth families. And one of the families that mentors Tatiana and I goes back 15 generations. Their family trusts go back to 1485. I was recently in Dubai with a family that has had a family business for over 600 years. So what Tatiana and I do is we do profit for people. So with Link Foundation, we are now structuring and planning and having high-level conversations with different family offices and ultra-high net worth families in regards to a 250-year legacy plan, which is 3 generations, okay? So what the mindset is that when you're investing or allocating or deploying capital, you got to look at when you invest money, because there's 3 steps to money. Number 1 is to make or earn money. Number 2 is to protect that money and keep it safe. And number 3 is to multiply that money. So when you take your money that you earn, you want to put that money out there to go to work, but you want to multiply it and have it come back with more friends. And so when it comes to creating generational wealth, you want to do things that are calculated in terms of protecting your money so you don't get into speculative stuff that you lose it, you gamble it. And if you do are gambling it, it's not going to change or alter your lifestyle. So with Link Foundation, we're creating a 250-year legacy plan. So what it does, it raises our mindset in terms of what we want to do in the world. So, how we protect and qualify our time, to how we say yes or how we say no to things, how we want to grow and scale companies, how we build and expand our investment portfolio. So you think about getting your money right and taking care of your family and making sure your money's right in your family, and that you've got monthly passive recurring revenue coming in for your family to take care of all your necessities and your lifestyle. So there's 3 steps to look at. Number 1 is, as you look at your life, you want to take care of your lifestyle. So what it requires of your lifestyle is, annual budgeting, your cash flow management planning, income tax planning, and all your administration costs, things to support your lifestyle. Then you have what they call generational wealth planning. And that's where it's going 1 or 2 or 3 generations out with your family, right? In terms of what you want to do. And then it's your legacy, right? And that's where you create your family governance, your philanthropical planning, what you're going to do in terms of success and planning. So the key thing is with Link Foundation is so I'll show you, this is actually a master plan. This is the paper version. I have a digital version as well. This is a 100-year plan for my personal life. This is my master plan for life. It's a 100-year plan. And it's 567 pages. And I work on it 15 minutes every day. It's a daily habit. And I refine and stuff like that. And that's just my master plan for age 100. So I'm scheduled in my life to be 100 years of age. Now, my neighbor, who's just over here, he's 93 years of age. He's the 3rd wealthiest Canadian in Canada. He's 93 and he goes to work 6 days a week, employs 50,000 people here in this group of companies. 3rd wealthiest guy in Canada. He's a multi-billionaire. Okay. He's 93, still going to work 6 days a week. And so when you start to think of a master plan for your life, see, most people plan a 2-week vacation. That's a struggle. Start thinking about how you can plan your life to 100 years or 250 years. Start thinking forward. Now, you're not going to know how. Now, here's the thing I want to share with you, okay? Because a lot of you on the call, the first thing you do is, well, how am I going to do that? I'm going to shift your mindset. It's called the how and the who. The how and the who. Always remember this, the how and the who. The masses of the population always say, how am I going to do this? The high level performance people like ourselves and board of advisors, we say, who can help us? Who can be on our life team that we can help assemble on our life team that we can strategize and collaborate with through a collective intelligence of who? So there's families that I meet. So I'm actually next weekend with a family that has a 1,000-year legacy plan documented.
Oh my gosh.
Legacy plan. They're based in Houston, Texas.
Unbelievable. So,
Yeah.
you know what's really interesting? You're talking about the how and the who. And if anyone has ever read the book, you know, I don't know a lot of entrepreneurs have, I love it, Simon Sinek, Start with Why, right? So he lays out in that book, you know, you start with why you're doing something. You wait to get to the how. First you why, then what, then you deal with how and who. And it's in that order. Interestingly enough, you know, you're talking about, okay, you already understand why, right? You understand what you're doing, and you're actually putting it into that same methodology that Simon Sinek calls out in his book, Start with Why. And because that book resonated so loudly with me and with a lot of other entrepreneurs, I know that what you're saying is a proven methodology. And it's really interesting to hear you talk about it being part of your 250 legacy plan and the way that you approach that.
Absolutely, for sure. And then the intention with Link Foundation after 250 years to actually have the foundation go bust. We want to actually go out of business. Michael J. Fox, who's actually from North Vancouver, Canada here. Michael J. Fox, a lot of you guys know who Michael J. Fox is with Back to the Future and various different movies. Michael J. Fox, his intention with his foundation is to actually put his foundation out of business, because that way you solve for problems. And one of the key things to look for is I want you to think about in your life, in your family, what are you solving for? Think about this question. What are you solving for? Over the next few weeks, as we go into the holiday season here over Christmas and New Year's, what are you solving for? As we go into the year 2022, what are you solving for? Do you want to pay off your parents' mortgages? Do you want to buy the new vehicle, take them on a dream trip? Do you want to go on an African safari? Do you want to build a private family foundation? Do you want to do global philanthropy? Do you want to build new churches, orphanages, schools? Dedicate your life to a cause greater than yourself. That's a key thing, is that when you get out of the way of yourself, if you want to raise your deserve level and attract more abundance and more financial prosperity in your life, say, hey, I'm going to sponsor a soup kitchen in my community. I'm going to like the Make-A-Wish Foundation. I'm going to sponsor 10 kids. I'm going to take my company and I'm going to sponsor a sports team, a little league baseball team or a hockey team or a basketball team. All the kids on that team are going to have my company jersey.
This is fascinating. It's fascinating because what you're talking about is that bigger purpose that is sometimes the company or the business is just a vehicle to accomplish that, right? So Steve Jobs, you know, when he was asked what is the mission of Apple, his response was, and this is years ago, his response was to orchestrate a transition of power from the few to the many. Oh, by the way, we also make really sexy computers. Like that was it. Like he was a company that made computers and cell phones and mobile devices, but those were all just a vehicle to accomplish their ultimate goal, which was orchestrating a transition of power from the few to the many. That was the reason for the existence of the company. And some of the most powerful brands in the world, if you go right to their homepage, in between all the sales stuff, you will see what they stand for. And the business is just a way of accomplishing that bigger goal. That's a lot of what you're talking about right now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Okay, so you referred to in the midst of talking about your 250 legacy plan, you were talking about a life team. What is a life team and why is that important?
Yeah, so a life team, for example, consists of people, for example, like accountants, lawyers, CPAs, personal fitness trainers, nutritionists, chiropractors, massage therapists, reflexologists. In your life, everything that you need, right, to run at an optimal level in terms of, like, I'm down 32 pounds. So what I did as part of my life team,
congratulations.
I'm just in the best physical shape of my life right now. So when a life team is that most people, you may belong to like board of advisors, for example, you have a mentor, you have a coach in your life or coaches, you may have a pastor or a priest, right, in your life, or relationship coaches or financial coaches. But a life team is your inner circle. And your life team, what you'll discover is the bigger the games you play, the more you protect and qualify your time. And then you need to have people that are in your inner circle that you need to respect and admire, that people that give you advice, people that counsel you, people that give you consultation, that you take their advice seriously. So your life team is that you build out that, for example, if something should happen in your life today, because you have to understand this, in life, we're coming from a problem, we're in a problem, or we're heading towards a problem. That's the condition of being a human being. You're either coming from a problem, you're in a problem, or you're heading towards a problem. So the purpose of a life team is to mitigate problems and challenges in your life, personally or professionally. So today, whatever crisis, because like in my life, I have a group of companies, I have a lot going on, like other people on this call. So my life today is going to be a crisis celebration, crisis celebration, crisis celebration. That's what happens throughout my life. Crisis celebration, crisis celebration. Calls, texts, emails, messages. Somebody's having a crisis, somebody's having a celebration. Somebody's having a victory, somebody's having a loss. It's just when you have a portfolio group of companies, that's what happens. So I'm in the middle, I'm neutral. So with the life team is that when something should happen, who can use speed dial on a phone and solve it or talk it through or work it out as your life
that's
team.
interesting.
So
that's interesting. And you know what makes me feel really good about that is you've actually done that with me. You've reached out, and I didn't know until this moment that apparently I'm part of your life team.
You are, and I haven't written out. In fact, I haven't written out. And every month, just so you know, so I just did, because we're now in December of 2021, I just did a month in review here just in the last 48 hours, and I review who's on my life team. And sometimes you'll switch people in and out of your life team. So as you go forward in the month of December 2021 and go forward, start to think about, now here's something I want to encourage everybody to do. Schedule thinking time in your calendar. Actually time block, color code if you like, which I do. Schedule thinking time. Now people say, well, what do I think about? You think about what you're thinking about. See, most people never think about their thoughts. They never think about their reoccurring dialogue or their thoughts. So you think about what you're thinking about. And so the thing is, when it comes to your life team, think about in your life, so here's a couple of things to look at. One is, so in business, we hear about ROI, return on investment. Two more things I want you to start to metric and keep track of going forward in 2022. As you do a year in review, two things I want you to look for. Number one is return on energy. You want to look at return on energy. Some of the people in your life right now suck the life out of you. They suck the life out of you. Okay, when you're around these people, it's like, oh gosh, I got to go home and sleep because they suck life. So you want to get a return on energy. Some of the deals and opportunities that are going to come to you as opportunity zones in 2022, I say no to some opportunities that have a huge financial upside. They're lucrative, but I say no to them because I don't want to deal with the people because it sucks the life out of me, right? Because it affects my health and my mental well-being. You know,
that's true.
So return on energy. Next thing is return on life. I took a group of entrepreneurs last night, high-level entrepreneurs, on a night hike last night. We went night hiking last night.
Oh,
we went out in the
beautiful.
freaking forest, and it was fun. And at the end, they realized I said, so what's the metaphor here? And they go, it wasn't as scary as we thought it was going to be. It's all in our head. It's all made up. It's all mental noise, mind chatter. So
I mean, ultimately, you're creating everything in front of you every single moment based upon your thoughts and how you perceive your world, and you can change the entire world in a moment just by changing your thoughts. It's powerful. So I understand what you're talking about. Let me ask you really quick here, because we're getting toward the end of our time, and I do want to give some Q&A time to the people who've attended the call, make sure that they have a chance to interact with you. One of the things that you do that's really particular, I mean, it's unique to you, is, as far as I know, is you actually schedule a quarterly balance sheet meeting with your family. Like you sit down and you review the balance sheet. Describe to me that strategy and why it's important for you.
Yeah, so we do 4 times a calendar year. Titi and I have it scheduled. We schedule a year in advance, so it's time blocked into our calendar a year in advance. And wherever we are, it's a non-negotiable quarterly balance sheet meeting. And we schedule whether it's a half a day or a full day. And we actually go through all of our investments, and we look at how our investments are performing in terms of return on investment. You know, are they paying monthly or quarterly dividends or distributions? Are they on time? So we evaluate all that. We evaluate the teams. So we do things. So we look at everything in our finances, from our portfolio to all of our financial expenses. We look at our different multiple revenue streams, whether they're active or passive revenue streams. We look at different opportunity zones. So anything that has to do with money. And then we evaluate our financial team, the people that we are doing business with from, I'll tell you one thing that we're doing right now. Next week is our quarterly balance sheet meeting for this quarter. Our accountant is 73 years of age here in Canada. And so he's getting up there in age. And we are starting to contingency plan just in case something should unexpectedly happen. What do we do? If our accountant gets sick or hurt or unexpectedly death happens, what do we do? We also look at this quarter right now is reviewing our investments. So we look at all of our different investments, we look at all the people involved, and then we look at, our cash reserves, we look at our credit scores, we look at lines of credit if we have those. Titi and I are just ordering a new vehicle. We just ordered a new vehicle. It takes about 5 months to get a new vehicle. So I don't want to pay for it. I don't like to pay for vehicles. So I'm like, I'm not paying for it. Somebody else can pay for the new vehicle. I'm not paying for it. So what I'm doing now is our quarterly balance sheet meeting is I'm thinking I need to create another passive recurring revenue stream that will pay for it. And then I create a 3-month contingency plan of a cash reserve of 3 months, 90 days, that if something should happen to that revenue stream or get disrupted or get dries up, I've got a 3-month buffer to pivot and create another revenue stream. So because I don't buy, if I buy a watch or anything I buy, I never buy it out of active income. I only buy it out of passive income. My passive income has to pay for it, not active income.
Yeah, so, I've heard that strategy before, and it's just a shift in thinking. I think it was actually, I think it might have been part of Think and Grow Rich in that book. And it's been a while since I read it, so I'm not sure if that's accurate. But the whole idea that, the difference between the wealthy and everyone else really is just the mindset of the wealthy never go out and actually purchase something and, just outright from their income, they find a way to create a passive income source that will then finance whatever it is that they want.
Absolutely.
And, it's just a complete mind shift. And that's what you're saying. So listen, if I were to put a bow on this and say, using these different strategies that you've laid out, you can create generational wealth. Like how would you wrap that into one strategy and say the biggest thing that you can possibly do to move the needle on creating wealth that outlives you and even your children is what?
Is getting around. It's your environment. Who you spend more time with. So I used to hang out with 4 financially broke friends. I was the 5th. When I sat down with one of my mentors, he said, the reason why you're financially broke is you're hanging around with people who are financially broke. So for example, you got to get people who are playing. So if you're worth $5 million, $10 million right now, you got to get around people worth $25, $30, $40 million. So it's a stretch. It stretches you. So you always want to be leveling up and skilling up. So the key thing is you don't want to be the smartest person in the room, but you don't want to get people, you don't spend time with people you're always respect and admire, right? Get around people that you have an influence on, get around people who challenge you. A lot of times people go where they feel appreciated, they feel respected, and then they're in their comfort zone. So you want to change your environment, get around people who are playing a much bigger game than you. Like last week, I was with 3 different billionaires. Okay. Just last week. And it was like, wow, the thinking is completely different in terms of the mindset.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Hands down. And you know what? That is kind of the essence behind our sponsor, Board of Advisors. So on that note, I actually want to invite back in Mike Calhoun, the CEO of Board of Advisors, because that's the whole idea behind the business that he has created, is to provide those opportunities for entrepreneurs to stretch themselves in a way that they never have before, to put themselves in a place of discomfort in order to be challenged on their strategies, on the way they're thinking, on the way they're living their lives, on really how they structure everything in their environment so that they can grow and expand. Mike, give me your takeaways. What have you gotten from today?
Yeah, so Darren overworked me. I usually have a full page of notes. Now I have 2 full pages of notes. Thank you, Darren. Appreciate that, buddy. No, this is good stuff. If we look back, remember the movie Wolf of Wall Street with Jordan Belfort, right? Yeah. The story of Jordan Belfort. One of the things that he comes out right in the beginning in his straight line sales system was number 1 rule in his book was be enthusiastic as hell, right? Like, because there's a contagious aspect of that enthusiasm that draws people in, that positive energy, right? I think that is exactly what we felt on this call. Darren is enthusiastic. I mean, it doesn't get any more enthusiastic. And if you look at the chat, everybody's loving you, buddy. I really enjoyed the call today. And part of this for me, it's a rewarding process to watch Cory do what he does so well, in these conversations, and just kind of put a little bit of a highlighter on some of the gold. I also like the way that you were illustrating that no means nothing to those who know where they are going. Right? That's good. You did that right in the beginning. Another thing too is you actually hit this one from a couple different angles. Get out of the way. Usually that founder, that CEO, at a certain point, they're in the way. So get out of the way, create something bigger than you, because you can't outperform the team. You build the right team, you can't outperform them. It's your job to cast vision and their job to chase that down with execution. And like I said, you hit that from a couple different angles. And the way I kind of summarize that is the number one priority as that founder or visionary, which is the role you play, it's share the dream and build the team. You like that? Share the dream, build the team. And, as you were kind of telling your story, I got a lot here. As you were kind of telling your story, it goes back to another gentleman that I was in conversation with, where most businesses start out as a service, right? You were talking about your consultancy, but if you look at this, it all starts with a service, whether it's a product, right, or a service or a platform. It still begins and ends with service, the customer service, the experience. How do we back it up? It all comes down to the people, right? I even have more here. When you think this is one that if you missed this portion of the call, you're not going to understand what it means. But here's another one. When you think things are getting tough, just reach down and apply a little more pressure. Yeah, you had to be on the call for that one. Yeah, I thought that was funny, by the way. And here's a couple to-dos, which I do like these because I think we get so focused on building the business and focusing on, what are our processes and systems. And, sometimes as that leader, we need to back off for a moment, because the better we are, the better the business will be as well. And the better our teams will be, because they'll have a great example to follow. So one of the to-dos that I really liked was assemble a life team and put them on speed dial. Assemble a life team and put them on speed dial. Another one was, and I'm a big believer in this, which I don't do enough, so I want to thank you for the reminder here. Another one is schedule or time block critical thinking time. You called it thinking time, but what I like to call it critical thinking time, where everything is out of the way and you really get to focus on strategy and innovation, right? A lot of us think that stressing out and worrying about stuff is thinking time, and that's not really what we're doing here. We want to be able to get all the crap out of the way, just commit to that visionary, innovative thinking time. That it's such a great experience, and it's a great activity that should be on the calendar. So thank you for that. And then the last one is, I think all of us for 2022, and it's easy to say, hey, let's do this differently the next year, but all of us for the next year and going forward just in life, we're all looking at a return on our investments. We need to be looking at a return on our energy and life. You said that really well. We put out a lot of energy. Are we getting the right return on that energy that we're investing into our activities and the other people that we're surrounding ourselves with? And then how's that impacting our life? Like Sarah, she just went on a sailboat trip, right? She's really good at her investing on the business side of things, but also investing in the family. So, I love the highlighters that you were able to bring to the surface today. And those were just some of the things that stood out to me.
All right, Darren, thank you so much for being with us today for GoCEO. If anyone was watching today and you would like to be considered as a future guest on the GoCEO show, you can just email me personally if you'd like, Cory, that's Cory, at boardofadvisors.com. And I will send you a link for our consideration form. And I'll take a look and see if it makes sense to get you on the show and hear your thoughts and what wisdom and actionable advice you have to deliver. So until next week, I believe next week we're actually going to have Ty Crandall on our broadcast. He was not able to be with us at the last Board of Advisors meeting, but Ty is just a wealth of knowledge when it comes to getting business financing and the different ways that you can qualify and the misnomers that people tend to believe about business credit. He's just really, really brilliant on those things. full of energy and absolute fireball. So I really look forward to interviewing Ty next Friday. Please join us on GoCEO every single Friday at noon right here at this link. We'll see you next time.